Insulin is the most powerful drug in the world, and my daughter, who's sitting back there with my wife, that is not even a year old, can manipulate in our kitchen. She can open a cabinet, take food out, feed herself. She can't get the jars open yet. That day's coming. And she can manipulate her insulin level. Insulin's a hormone. I won't get into all the specifics of it, but in terms of what we're talking about today, which is weight loss and health and wellness, it's elevated in response to sugar. It's elevated in response to carbohydrates. It can be addictive, responsible for a sugar crash. When body fat goes up, insulin becomes inefficient. That's where we start to develop a concern for type 2 diabetes. Basically, the body's still making insulin. The individual may not be a type 2 diabetic, but instead of insulin doing its job as a storage hormone, it's storing things in our adipose tissue, our fat. So the body makes more insulin goes to the fat. And insulin's like a school bus driving all kinds of extra calories to our fat cells, which makes them bigger. As they get bigger, body fat percent goes up, insulin doesn't work as well. Eventually they end up on an oral medication, and then eventually you're injecting yourself with insulin. Plus you've got a weight problem. This one slide, and this is mine, this is something I came up with, will change your life. If you can understand the children's seesaw, you can understand the secret to long-term weight loss. It's right here on the slide on the seesaw. When insulin goes up, on the other side of the seesaw is its antagonistic hormone called glucagon. Glucagon goes down. Insulin is responsible for storage. Just think school bus, driving more to our fat, making us fatter. Glucagon is responsible for metabolizing fat. This is why it's not all about calories. If you constantly elevate your insulin levels, the hormone that burns fat goes down, you're not going to burn any fat. It's that simple. Glucagon is responsible for gluconeogenesis. You won't have to ever remember that term, just remember the seesaw. Okay, lower your blood sugar, which lowers the need for insulin. Your body will burn fat. Gluconeogenesis is basically the metabolic conversion of adipose tissue or fat, or dietary fat and protein, or lean tissue to energy to be converted to glucose and used by the body. Down and dirty is when insulin's elevated, you're not going to burn any fat. If you're controlling insulin, you may reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes. You may reduce potential for ADD or ADHD. Again, this is why it's not just calories, but what impact on our body those calories have. And then we can also, there is some evidence that says because of the sugar crashes, insulin or up-down blood sugar levels play a role in depression, mood swings, and definitely binging. Leave this slide up. I used to go motocrossing with a guy that I went to college with, and he would pick me up in his truck, and without fail, we would have to stop and get gas. Every time we'd stop and get gas, he could not leave the Quickie Mart convenience store attached to any gas station without buying one of those 64-ounce jugs of pop and an armful of junk food. And one day I looked over at him, I said, Doug, this is going to sound a little crazy, but have you ever been tested for diabetes? And he's looking at me, he's got his jug of pop, he's got his armful of junk food, and he said, no, why? I said, well, I suspect that you can't help yourself with going into that Quickie Mart and buying all that sugar-loaded food. And I think what you're really doing is self-medicating yourself. I think you had a high-sugar breakfast, your blood sugar is now crashed, and in the back of your mind, you're being told to go load up. Because we can't go riding without you leaving a gas station with all that junk. About a year and a half later, I got a phone call from Doug. His doctor said he was pre-diabetic.
Whoa, amber is the color of